Hey there, hey friends, Ken here, your Thrifty Apprentice, and welcome to today's video. What do you do when you don't know what to do? When you don't know what to create? When you don't know what direction to go in? When your mind is filled with fuzzy, warm thoughts, but absolutely no way to connect it to the paper that you're staring at directly in front of you? But don't worry, friends, because today I have some things that I would like to show you that I use in order to break myself out of any sort of artist block. I mean, let's be frank here. The best way to get through any wall is to try methods that you've never tried before, especially if the things that you have been doing doesn't seem to work for you at this point. So in this video, I would like to take you on a journey and share with you just some of the things that I do in order to help propel myself along my creative journey, and in the meantime, hopefully learning new techniques and enveloping new ways to make sure that my art is at the best it could possibly be. Now, before we jump in with creating and head over to the creation table to try to tackle what is hopefully going to be absolutely phenomenal, I think it's important that we kind of touch on the way I'm going to be painting, the style I'm going to be using, versus the way I normally paint or the style I normally use. Today, we're talking Impressionism. Impressionism was a revolutionary 19th century art movement that aimed to capture the fleeting nature of the present moment and the effects of light. The movement, launched in 1874, rejected established styles and incorporated new ideas and technology. Impressionist artists are characterized by short, visual brushstrokes. Artists use quick brushstrokes to capture the overall impression of their subject rather than fine details, and this definitely differs from realism. Realism, on the other hand, in art, often known as naturalism or object realism, is an artistic approach that seeks to represent reality as accurately and authentically as possible, which is the painting style I normally shoot for, or at least getting my composition to look as realistic-ish as possible. But we're going to take a light speeds in the opposite direction today, and we are going to be looking at painting in a very impressionistic way. So let's head over to the painting table and take a look. As we start, I am displaying a list of materials, that way you will know what I use to tackle this composition. This project is a lot of things at once. First, I'm going to be using really wet washes of paint that I apply in layers to add the color to this painting. Second, I am painting in a sketchbook that I am not totally fond of. This is helping with two things: my goal to use up as many sketchbooks as I can during 2025, and to use up the paper I do not like as much as others that I have in my stash. Thirdly, this composition is my attempt at pulling back, loosening up, and painting more so that you get the idea of the composition versus a detailed painting of the composition. This is my continued attempt to incorporate different techniques into my painting style with hopes of improvement and growth. So as I started out with wetting and then covering the entire composition in a unifying background wash that would help keep color harmony as I attempted this painting, I used super watery red-orange color as an overall glaze to give my composition more of a late day or evening time feel. This is being done with a synthetic swirl brush which holds lots of water to make sure everything stays wet. This wetness will cause a color shift that will leave the background light and capable of being built upon. I gave the first wash time to dry and then painted the sky using the exact same color used for the background wash. Again, here, the area is wetted first, and then I'm applying my paint to keep the paint watery, which will force a lighter shift in color once it dries. You will see right away that the painting starts to take some shape simply from those two wet washes. Next, I moved on to the foreground with a really wet mixture of ultramarine blue and lemon yellow. I made an earthy green color and applied it to the grass area of the composition. As I do this, you will notice that I apply more paint in some areas than others. This is done to add more depth here and there, leaving the foreground with some form of dimension. Now at this point, I would also like to point out the fact that I am painting a spread versus using one page of the sketchbook. This gives me practice with painting bigger and helps use more of the sketchbook at once. I am still using a synthetic squirrel brush, this time a round one, to keep things as wet as possible. Here again, I will give things time to dry as I continue to paint. Next, I am moving into the midground area. Starting with the house, I will wet it first before applying paint mixed from ultramarine blue, cyan, and burnt umber. These colors I use to mix a neutral, for the house itself will be more in shadow than anything. At this point, I have switched to a golden Taklon brush, and I'm using it to apply the wash in layers for dimension as I did with the foreground. Of course, with the washes being wet, the color will shift lighter. This is actually the technique I am employing the most in this composition. Wet washes that dry lighter is the name of the game here. I am also going to be using that color to add some lighter shadow to the foreground grass area as well. You will notice me adding water as I go. I have to say, at this point, although this isn't my favorite paper in my collection, it is handling all of the water I'm throwing at it pretty well. At this point, I am moving into painting the lake area. I mixed ultramarine blue and cyan together until I achieved the colored blue I wanted to use. I then applied it in layers until it reached the saturation that I was looking for. You will notice a common theme as I paint. I am continuing to use the same colors over and over, even as I mix new colors. This, like the very first wash I applied, is serving to maintain harmony once all is said and done. Plus, the coolness of the blues in comparison to the green in the foreground helps to push the lake area further back into the painting, giving the illusion of distance, serving as a divider between the sky and the foreground area. Now, unfortunately, I forgot to hit the record as I was putting in the base for the tree area, but I mixed more burnt umber in with just a touch of ultramarine blue to achieve the color and then painted in the base. Again, here, I was trying to not to be detailed, but instead leave an impression area of trees. With a little effort on my part, the brain kicks in and signals the eye to recognize what the shape is supposed to be. I think use the colors to add I then use the colors to add a bit into the foreground, continuing to tie everything together. To wrap everything up, I once again mixed a neutral, this time getting it as dark as possible. This wash will be used to add the final layer to hopefully pull everything together. I will add dark shadows to the house, being sure to create a divide between the roof itself and the rest of the house. I will also add in the shadow line of the trees, reflect shadows across the foreground, darken in the window areas, add areas of grass blades to the foreground, a broken fence to the side of the house, shadow to the chimney area, shadow the hill that the trees sit upon, And finally, to add some birds to the sky, as I do with almost every single landscape I paint. And that, my friends, brings us to an end of all I attempted in making this painting look more impressionistic than real. You will have to jump in the comments section to share your thoughts on how you think the overall project turned out. If by chance you liked the video or found any of its information helpful, then please don't forget to sprinkle a little love and give the video a thumbs up. If you choose to share, please know that it will be showing you truly care and is greatly appreciated, for it will help the efforts of getting the video in front of other wonderful viewers just like yourself. If you are new or returning and haven't subscribed, then I encourage you to do so and to hit that notification bell so you know when we go live and when we upload. To check the video description for all of the relevant links, which include all of the platforms you can support Defyantarts, the Thrifty Apprentice on, and a direct link to our website. Thank you all so much for joining me. Be sure to check the video and playlist suggestions at the end of this. And remember, as I express to you every single time we part, just keep creating, my friends.